The airfield still smelled of aviation fuel and dust when Squadron Leader Arslan Haider walked across the tarmac. The morning sun cast long shadows of F-16s, lined like silent sentinels awaiting the call of war. Arslan's boots struck the ground in a rhythm that matched the pounding in his chest. For weeks, tension had escalated along the border. Intelligence reports spoke of enemy squadrons preparing a massive strike. He touched the metallic surface of his jet, call sign Falcon 29, as though greeting an old friend. The engineers stood nearby, checking systems with a mix of precision and nervousness. Arslan's thoughts drifted to his wife, Sanaa, and their little boy, Hamza, who had waved goodbye the night before without understanding the gravity of war. Today's briefing had been clear: protect the skies, whatever it takes. Arslan had flown countless missions before, but something in his gut told him this day would carve itself into history, at a terrible cost. At 11:45 a.m., alarms shattered the tense stillness of the base. Radar detected multiple enemy aircraft breaching national airspace. The strike package was heavy: attack jets, bombers, and escorts, designed to cripple strategic sites. Falcon 29, scramble, intercept and defend, the tower commanded. Arslan sprinted to his cockpit, strapping in with practiced hands. His squadron, call signs Falcon 21 to Falcon 30, took to the skies in synchronized precision. As the afterburners roared, the earth shrank beneath them. At 20,000 feet, the enemy appeared, a swarm of aircraft glinting in the sunlight. The radio buzzed with clipped voices. Falcon 23 engaging bandits. Falcon 25 locking target. Missiles streaked across the sky, leaving trails of fire and smoke. Arslan's voice was calm. Falcon 29 engaging lead bomber. He dove sharply, locked on, and fired an AIM-120 missile. The bomber exploded into a fireball, pieces raining down like molten hail. Cheers filled the comms, but the battle was far from won. Enemy fighters swarmed like hornets. The radio crackled with distress calls. Falcons were outnumbered. Arslan knew victory would not come without sacrifice. Dogfights erupted across the horizon. Jets twisted, rolled, and climbed in dizzying spirals. The sky itself seemed to shudder with explosions. Arslan's jet darted between enemy aircraft with breathtaking precision, pulling maneuvers that tested the limits of machine and man. He fired again, another enemy fighter spiraling down in smoke. But as he pulled up, a missile lock warning screamed inside his cockpit. He banked hard left, flares shooting out, narrowly escaping death. Falcon 29, you've got 2 bandits on your tail, came the urgent call from Falcon 24. Arslan pushed his throttle to maximum, climbing into the sun. The pursuers followed. His oxygen mask fogged as G-forces crushed his chest. Then, in a split-second gamble, he cut throttle, pulled a Cobra maneuver, and the enemy jets overshot. Arslan fired 2 missiles, 2 kills. But the sky was bleeding Falcons. Falcon 21 had gone silent. Falcon 27 reported heavy damage. Through the chaos, command relayed the worst news: a second wave of bombers had crossed the border, targeting the capital city. If they succeeded, thousands of civilians would perish. Falcon 29, break formation, the controller ordered. You're the closest. Intercept at all costs. Arslan's throat tightened. He knew what that meant. Alone, against overwhelming odds. But his voice remained steady. Falcon 29, roger that. Engaging. Arslan adjusted course, his jet tearing through the stratosphere. Ahead, 5 enemy bombers escorted by 4 fighters loomed like vultures. His radar painted the deadly picture: too many targets for one man. But the capital lay beneath them, millions of lives depending on him. He whispered a prayer. Ya Allah, give me strength. The first missile streaked from his rail, slamming into the lead bomber. The explosion rocked the formation, but the escorts closed in. Warning alarms shrieked as they locked on. Arslan rolled, diving beneath them, and fired another missile upward. Second bomber destroyed. 2 down, he muttered, sweat dripping inside his helmet. A missile grazed his wingtip, shaking the jet violently. Arslan fought the controls, systems flashing red. He pulled level, heart hammering, and launched a sidewinder at an escort. Direct hit. 3 bombers remained. Fuel was running low. Ammunition was almost gone. And yet, he pressed forward. He took down the 3rd bomber with his last missile, but enemy cannon fire ripped into Falcon 29. Warning lights screamed, hydraulics failure, engine damaged. Smoke filled the cockpit. His jet was dying. But the final 2 bombers were lining up for their run on the city. Arslan made his choice. He pulled his jet into a near-suicidal dive toward the bombers, overriding every alarm. His hands trembled, but his resolve was unshaken. With no weapons left, his aircraft itself became the weapon. "Falcon 29, this is my last transmission," he radioed, voice calm yet resolute. "Tell my son." His father kept the skies safe. The collision lit up the heavens, an inferno that consumed Arslan's jet and the bombers together. The capital below was spared. On the ground, people gazed upward at the distant fireball, unaware of the name behind their salvation. The news spread swiftly, an entire wave of bombers destroyed, the capital saved, the enemy forced to retreat. At the airbase, silence hung in the control room after Arslan's last words. Hardened officers lowered their heads. Engineers wept quietly. Falcon 29's beacon had gone dark forever. Days later, Sanaa stood in the courtyard of her home, holding Hamza's hand as a military convoy arrived. The commander, his voice thick with emotion, handed her the folded flag and Arslan's medals. "Your husband was a lion of the skies," he said. "He gave his life so millions could live." Hamza clutched his mother's dress, staring at the medal with wide eyes. "Mama, will Baba come back?" he asked. Sanaa knelt, tears blurring her vision. She kissed her son's forehead. "Baba is flying higher now, my love. Higher than anyone else." The nation mourned, yet celebrated. Streets filled with portraits of Arslan Haider, declared Shahid-e-Watan, martyr of the homeland. His story ignited pride and sorrow in equal measure. Years later, Hamza would grow up hearing the tale of the last flight. At school, teachers spoke of Squadron Leader Arslan as a symbol of unyielding courage. Streets were named after him, statues erected, his name etched into the nation's history. But for Sanaa, the memory was quieter, more personal. Each night she stood by the window, imagining the sound of roaring jet engines, whispering prayers for the man who had given her everything, and given his country even more. Hamza, now older, often visited the airbase where his father once served. He would place his hand on Falcon 29's memorial, reading the words engraved there. "He flew into the fire so others could live. The sky remembers its bravest son." In time, Hamza joined the Air Force, inspired by the legacy of sacrifice. His first solo flight was dedicated to the father he never truly knew, yet always carried within him. And so, the spirit of Squadron Leader Arslan Haider lived on, not only in the defense of the homeland, but in the hearts of every citizen who looked skyward and remembered the martyr's final act. The last flight was not an end. It was the eternal ascent of a hero whose wings never broke.